A warm greeting. Today is Wednesday, September 20th, 2023. I am meteorologist Ruben Garcia. In this video, I will be updating the forecast related to the tropical wave that we are monitoring in the Caribbean region. This disturbance has a high probability of becoming the next tropical depression as it moves west-northwest over the next 7 days. I also wanted to briefly mention that the National Hurricane Center is closely monitoring the area to the southeast of the United States where the development of a subtropical storm is forecasted, which could bring adverse weather conditions to much of the eastern United States. If you are interested in learning more about this forecast, I invite you to search for a video I recorded earlier today. On another note, we have Hurricane Nigel, which continues to weaken as it moves northeast over open waters of the Atlantic without posing a threat to land. Now, let's focus on the tropical wave that we will be closely monitoring. In today's video, I will be discussing the two possible scenarios we are observing among the global models. One scenario has the system moving just northeast of the Caribbean, while the other scenario has it traveling more to the west and posing a threat to the eastern Caribbean. At 8 p.m., the National Hurricane Center maintains a 70% probability of cyclonic development over the next 7 days as it generally moves west-northwest. Today, we continue to see that all global models predict the development of a tropical depression in the coming days. Atmospheric conditions in the tropical Atlantic remain very favorable for cyclone development. Starting with sea surface temperatures, as this tropical wave moves west, it will cross increasingly warmer waters, which increases the likelihood of development. In fact, these temperatures are currently above normal. The only hindrance we can identify at the moment is that the tropical wave is accompanied by some Saharan dust, which may interfere slightly with its organization when it moves west. However, this should not be a major impediment, and it is forecasted to become a cyclone in the early to middle part of next week. If we zoom in on the infrared satellite image, we can clearly see the rotation associated with this tropical wave, which continues to generate some intense thunderstorms. For a tropical wave that has just come off Africa, it currently looks quite healthy. These are indications that conditions are favorable for it to continue organizing in the coming days. I also wanted to mention that there is a disturbance associated with the tropical interconvergence zone located to the southwest of the tropical wave. This disturbance will have some interaction with the tropical wave as it moves west. This interaction is a factor that adds a bit of uncertainty because we still do not know what effect it will have on its future trajectory. However, any interaction with this disturbance could possibly cause this system to move more to the west, increasing the risk for the Caribbean. Let's see what the models from this afternoon show. There have not been significant changes compared to the morning runs today. Let's start with the GFS model. You can see that by Friday, it already has the interaction of the tropical wave with the disturbance in the tropical interconvergence zone. Then, both disturbances consolidate into a low pressure area, and by late Saturday afternoon or evening, we may have a tropical depression as it moves west with a slight southwest component. It is precisely this movement that could pose a greater risk to the Caribbean. As you can see, the GFS model continues to forecast that it will become a strong tropical storm or hurricane by late Tuesday, just before reaching the Lesser Antilles. The GFS model predicts that this future cyclone could reach the Caribbean region during Wednesday morning. It is very important to remember this date because it will be a determining factor in whether this cyclone could reach the Caribbean or if it manages to turn northeast. It's important to note that the GFS model has been very consistent in developing this tropical wave and bringing it to the Caribbean region, arriving on Wednesday morning. On the other hand, the European model also develops this tropical wave into a low-pressure system over the weekend. It possibly has a tropical depression forming by Sunday morning while maintaining a westward trajectory. However, the significant difference from the GFS model is that the European model moves this system more slowly across the tropical Atlantic. It predicts that it will not cross the 55° west longitude until Thursday, which would allow it to turn more to the northwest, passing northeast of the Caribbean without posing a threat. Here we can already see the significant difference between the two best models. The first one, the GFS, has this disturbance approaching during the morning hours of Wednesday, while the European model envisions a system moving much slower, which allows the high pressure to weaken in time for it to veer northwest. Similar to the GFS model, the European model has also been fairly consistent in maintaining a trajectory towards the northeast of the Caribbean. Therefore, we have a lot of uncertainty between the two best models. As I mentioned earlier, the final path of this future cyclone will depend on how quickly it moves westward. To explain this a bit, let's look at the GFS model. It has this future cyclone approaching the eastern Caribbean during the hours of Tuesday. For Tuesday, it is forecasted that the high pressure will be significantly strengthened in the Atlantic, which essentially guarantees a west-northwest trajectory, posing a threat to the eastern Caribbean. However, if this tropical wave moves more slowly, as shown by the European model, it may take until Thursday to cross the 55° west longitude. In this scenario, it would allow it to move northwest because it is forecasted that the high pressure will weaken during Wednesday night and Thursday, providing an opportunity for it to veer northwest. In fact, when we compare with other models, we also see these trends. Models that move this disturbance faster take it to the Caribbean, while those that move it slower pass it northeast of the Caribbean. For example, the German model, like the European model, has a system that moves much slower and takes until Thursday to approach the Caribbean. This allows it to take a northwest turn because the high pressure weakens and shifts to the right. While we have other models like the UK Met model, which in the latest run has a trajectory much farther west than it had shown in previous runs. Like the GFS model, it has a system moving faster, reaching the Lesser Antilles by Wednesday morning. This gives it the opportunity to move below the high pressure before it starts to weaken on Thursday. Another example is the Canadian model, which has this future cyclone reaching the Caribbean region on Thursday morning, indicating a slower movement. Therefore, it maintains a trajectory just northeast of the Lesser Antilles. It becomes quite clear what the most important factor to watch over the next few days will be: how fast it moves west and the interaction it will have with the disturbance in the tropical interconvergence zone. For example, the ensemble members of the GFS model show these two scenarios very clearly. Members that have a faster moving system reaching the Caribbean by Wednesday have a westward trajectory. Meanwhile, members that have a system crossing the 55° west longitude on Thursday have a trajectory more to the northwest because the high pressure would be weakening during Thursday and Friday. This clearly illustrates the significant uncertainty that persists. It is important for residents of the Eastern Caribbean to remain vigilant about the evolution of this tropical wave and the trends in the models over the next few days. On the other hand, the ensemble members of the European model almost all show a slower disturbance that takes a long time to reach the 55° west longitude. Therefore, the majority maintain a trajectory away from the Caribbean. I ask for your patience over the next few days. Remember that forecasts will change as the circulation of the tropical wave matures. We will be attentive to when the National Hurricane Center designates this area as an invest to have specialized model trajectories. In the meantime, stay calm but vigilant in the Eastern Caribbean in case the scenario shown by the GFS model materializes and poses a threat to the Caribbean. Here at Hurricane Info, I will continue to monitor the evolution of this disturbance. To not miss any of the videos, I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the red button below the video that says subscribe. Then, click on the bell to receive notifications when I upload new videos. I hope everyone has an excellent night, and I'll see you tomorrow.